Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to have a look at starting the coursework for A-level product design. So realistically what you're looking at is about a page of work a week in terms of like how much time you should be spending on it. What I'm going to do in this series of videos essentially is I'll go through the sort of basics of what sort of things expected on each set of pages. And then what I'll do is I'll show you a few different examples. Obviously it does vary depending on if you're going to do something like architecture, furniture, engineering based things. So what I'm trying to give you is a basic overview. Here's the kind of things that you should be including. Then what you then need to do is tailor it specific to what kind of thing that you're looking to look at yourself. So first thing, it needs to either be in a PowerPoint or a published document. So we do it all online. It needs to be set to A3. So if you don't know how to do that on PowerPoint, literally go to design, slide size, change that to A3 and go on to maximize size. On your front cover, the only things you should have on there are your full name as it would appear on your exam paper. So that includes all middle names, your candidate number, which you will find on your ID badge, the College of Richard Collier, and the centre number, which is 65131. Those are the only things you should have on your front cover. The only thing we add on to that is at the end of it, we put a photograph of your final finished product as well. Okay, so just a clear white background, black writing, and those four things for me first. And there's other few things to consider as well. Your font size can be no bigger than size 12. You can go smaller, but you can't go bigger than size 12, except for titles. Any excess space results in marks being deducted as well. So if you've basically got a page, got some information on there, but there's really obvious blank sections of it, you'll have marks taken away from you because it shows poor project planning, because you've not planned out how it's all laid out. Because it's very easy you can actually lose marks for having a folder that doesn't flow correctly. It's not easy to see how information goes from one point to another. The whole point is it should be your journey of, here's the problem I was looking to solve, here's the steps I went through to research it and designing it, and here's how I came to my final solution. But it should all run nice and smoothly, and they're like, here's my journey, here's what I did, here's why I did it, and so on. Also, and this is going to sound a bit dumb, this is A-level, okay? You need to remember that. So you need to be able to analyse all of the information you gather and relate it back to your project and how it's going to help you. If you take some information, do some research, and it's just on your folder and you think, oh, that'll just shut Simon up, it's fine. Again, you're going to lose marks, because what will happen is in the mark scheme it actually says all research is relevant and referred back to at a later date. So if you have a piece of research and it's just there because you think, oh, I'll need to have it, you need to constantly refer back to it, because like later on in your folder you may say, oh, looking back on page 3 I talked about X, Y and Z, or on page 14 I did this. So all of the information you have has to, one, be relevant, but two, you have to analyse it and show that you've understood what that is. Okay, there's no sense in having information that's just copied and pasted and you've not understood what that is. Okay, so the context, so that's sort of like the generic setting up of your folder. The next bit is the actual context and the rationale of your project. Okay, so at this point what you can't do is state that this is what I'm going to make. Okay, I'm doing this, I saw it on Google, it looks sick, I want it. If you do that, you're going to get no marks. Okay, what you would need to be doing is looking at what kind of project do you want to do, like say architecture, furniture, lighting, interior design, doesn't matter, whatever you choose to do. It'd be good to have an idea of like a spider diagram of sort of like what areas you might choose to focus in, like who your potential clients might be, what way your product might be used, what type of research you need to look into, that sort of thing. You basically need to be saying, instead of here's a product I'm going to make, here's a problem I'm going to solve. That's all we want at the beginning, is here is a problem that I've come across or I've found talking to people around this area that needs a solution to it. And you say, how did you come across this problem? Okay, so how do you know this is an issue? You need to analyse the problem in depth. So what are the potential issues that need solving? Again, at the minute, avoid trying to come up with solutions. You're just trying to look at analysing what are the issues that are going to need to be solved there. You also need to prove how is this a real world issue. Okay, now the best way to do that is with articles and statistics and that sort of thing. I'll show you that sort of thing in the next couple of slides. So you need to prove that it's a project worth doing and it serves a purpose. As I said, you can't just design something because you want it, you saw it online, it looks cool. Okay, that's not what A-level product design is about. It's about looking at problems, trying to solve them to come to a final solution. It also needs to be for a real life person. So a real world problem for a real life person. You can't make up a client. The client can't be an immediate family member because it's very hard for them to be impartial and say, oh no, like change this, change that. So you need to have an impartial like client that is not a close relative. You need to talk about who is that target market. So not just having your client, what sort of target market do they go into? Is there wider scope in that for a market? So if it's not just a one-off thing for a person, what are the longer term things in terms of like being able to manufacture that and sell that in a natural real life situation? You're also going to need a research plan. This basically states out what information do you need to get and where are you going to find that. Okay, so again, we're not doing the research yet. This is just you stating out, right, because of this project, I'm going to need to find out about X, Y, and Z. And then you say, right, to find out about X, Y, and Z, I'm going to look at these sort of websites, these sort of books, these sort of articles, and so on. And then you got to just dictate whether that's going to be a primary research or secondary research. You do need to do both. If you don't know the difference, primary is research that you've done yourself. Secondary research is research you've done that typically is like done online, websites, that sort of thing. So you need to do both primary and secondary. Primary is a little bit more labour intensive because you've got to physically go out and do stuff yourself. Secondary research, any secondary research you do, you need to make sure that you are referencing everything. Now, we will have a session on Harvard referencing. If you don't Harvard reference, you will get accused of plagiarism, which means you will receive an automatic 0. So what you need to do every time you've been on a website, make sure you've got the website link, copy and paste that onto a slide at the end. Make sure you say what date and day and time you went on that website as well, because sometimes what can happen is websites get taken down and it becomes a big thing because suddenly you can't find that website again. So having a look at a couple of different examples now. So this one, okay, so you see they identify the problem here now. So new housing on floodplain. So this is Izzy, who got 1 mark off an A star last year. So this main first page is about her basically looking through issues. Like, here's the main problem we're looking at. Then looking at most of this now is about having articles that back up what she said is an issue and proving that it is an issue. Okay. So obviously she knows she's going down the architecture route. She's also started to talk about the fact of like looking at different architectural models and scaling that be used as well. So this whole page here is just proving that the project you're doing is worth doing. And you're trying to prove that to yourself, to me, and to an examiner. Okay? If you can't find enough proof, like you can't find articles and statistics, then the odds are it's not a project that has got legs and you can do. Okay? That's normally a good indication. So you need to be able to find a good amount of articles and statistics to show that it's worthwhile. Okay? And you can copy and paste certain articles and graphs and things in there as well. That's always good to show. When it's basically just showing that, yeah, this is definitely a project that's got some legs to it. Now, this is probably going to go over 2 slides, maybe 3, depending on what sort of problem you're looking at. So looking into sort of like, how did you come across the problem? What are you hoping to gain from it and learn from it? So that can be both in like a professional standpoint of like learning more about architecture, model making, whatever that may be. Talking about who your client is a little bit and who they are. You will do a client profile as another page, but for now, like a bit of information about the sort of client and target market that it is. And then have a mind map, so you can find mind map generators online quite easily. I'll find a link and share that with you as well. So this is a minute. It's basically just imagine it's just all the thoughts in your head. Just put it all down on paper. Sort of like areas you might start to look into as well. All right. And then the last bit I talked about was research plan. So this is essentially, as you see on there, first of all, you see it's got underneath there primary, secondary. So all these sort of things. You see primary research obviously is done by you. Secondary is you got information online, books, that sort of thing. So essentially what she's got is, here's the area I'm looking into, and here's the sort of information I'm going to need to try and find out and where I might look for it, or what kind of research I might use to find that information. Okay, so it probably, like I said, 2 or 3 pages. The first page is going to be loads of statistics and articles to show that it's got legs to it. The second page, I want you analysing it a bit more detail. Third page, your research plan of here's where I'm going to start looking into things. Another example to look at as well. So you can see on this one, they've clearly already referenced it, so they got all their referencing done at the top. Same sort of thing. Obviously, how you lay it out is up to you. But one thing I want to make sure clear is obviously still you can see all the articles, statistics, and that thing there. But if you look about empty spacing, there actually isn't any. Now I had to crop this and put this on so it would fit on the screen while I was doing the recording and the help sheets. But this is what I'm talking about in terms of like empty spacing. So there isn't any. It's all flows very nicely. It's very easy to see what's going on. Again, their research plan, they stacked out secondary, primary, secondary, where information you need to look at as well. So that is the basic idea, like the first page that you need to do. So I say first page, like the first little mini section. So it's essentially looking at 2-3 pages. I'd say it probably is going to take you about a week to do. But this is arguably probably one of the most important parts of the folder, because it's used, like, here's the first thing. Like the first thing the examiner looks at is they want to check that it's a project that's actually a real proper project, not, oh, I saw something cool on Google and I want to make it, or I saw this on Instagram and I want to make it, because that isn't how the whole process works. Okay, it needs to be, here is the problem that I want to solve. It's to do with architecture, it's to do with engineering, it's to do with furniture, whatever it is. Okay, and here's all the articles, here's the statistics to prove that it is a problem, and then start to analyze it in a little bit more detail. Okay, hopefully you found that useful. You will have access to my help guide as well. We'll have the information as well, so you can have a look at it. If you've got any questions, please let me know.